Hello everyone, welcome back to Garage Joy. So in today's video, let's see if we can't fix the electrical issues that we've been having with this backhoe. So if you've watched some of my recent videos, you'll know that I've been fighting with charging system issues on this backhoe. No. They've actually been problems for quite a while now, but just recently I had issues with the battery being bad. I replaced the battery, but I want to fix the charging system so the new battery will stay properly charged. In order to do that, I need to pull the engine out, take the flywheel off, replace the stator underneath the flywheel, and put it all back together. So come along, let's go break a wrench, see if we can't get this done. All right, so first step is removing the gas tank. I'll check and see if there's too much fuel in there. I don't think there's a lot. Probably most of the weight's just gonna be the metal itself. The tank's not very full, we should be good. Looks like we are starting with a couple of bolts, one on each side here. That is all it holds the hood on. And then down below here, yeah, we've got these bolts down here that hold the grill on. So let's jump to it. I need something to hold it from spinning. All right, well, hood is disconnected, so we should be able to pull it off now, except for the fuel line. Be careful about that, shouldn't be a big deal. That thing is heavy. Come on, fuel line. There we go, got the fuel line off. So that means I've got to keep the tank tipped up like this now. Yeah. So got the fuel line off, which was easy enough. Just wiggle that off. But I kind of forgot about the electrical wires here. Gotta find this plug, or just unplug everything over here and unbolt that ground. I think that's the plug right there that I need. All right, well, it's nighttime now. I think I'm done for today. I went ahead and unplugged all of the wires here from the back of the headlights and just undid that little tiny ground there. That was the easiest one. So that's where we're at after end of day one, not much. All right, so we are back at it here on the backhoe. I actually had the hood down for a little while because of some rain. Now we need to officially get this fuel tank all the way off of there and keep it tilted so it doesn't drain out. You ever have some days where you just aren't feeling it? I think this is one of those days where I'm just not quite feeling it, you know? It's like 11:30 in the morning. Yay, let's get into it. Zip those bolts out right there. Same on this side. I think that'll free up this whole panel on the front here. All right, this should be pretty free now. Yep, just have to work it off over the exhaust here. Exhaust can stay on, that's good. Okay, yeah, I may need to undo some of those set screws. I think realistically I could just unbolt the engine now and try to see if it's free. I may spray some lubricant on the drive shaft to help loosen stuff up if I need to undo that though. PB blaster time. This should be pretty easy to get these bolts out. If you look under here, you'll notice that there's a plate that the engine is bolted to, which is also bolted down by bolts here on all four corners. So there's a total of 8 bolts there. You only need to undo any 4 of them. Well, preferably the 4 that actually hold the engine, not the plate that the engine is bolted to. But good news is, looks like it should be pretty easy because it's like a bolt and a nut instead of actually being threaded into the engine feet. A lot of lawnmower engines, which this is pretty similar to a lawnmower engine, they're bolted right into the foot of the engine. But with a nut and bolt, you don't have to worry about stripping out that aluminum or anything like that. Now the engine is free, though these bolts don't really want to come out all the way. That shouldn't be a big issue. We are free up in here. And on this side, I don't even know if you can see under there because it's a little tight, but then bolts don't want to come up because of the starter and whatnot. Unless it comes out behind the starter. Oh, actually, I think it does come out behind the starter. So I got that one, not that one. Let's see if the right hand That's what it takes. This may be fun to get back in. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that one there for now. Let's see if this thing is ready to wiggle. Okay, yeah, the engine is definitely wiggling. Let's just angle it around here where we can get to those set screws a little easier. Yeah, there's the set screw. Just need to get an Allen in there. Yeah, it's an Allen. Of course, the Allen doesn't want to budge. Oh, I think it went. Sweet. Let's try this one here. Hey, I didn't bang my knuckles. That's a plus. So now the engine should be free. The drive shaft doesn't want to come off. Might need a little persuasion. So I'm just going to try to rotate it back and forth, and maybe it'll loosen up, and maybe not. You never know. Maybe I should try a hammer. I cannot get this shaft to slide out of here. So there's no real great way to get this off that I can tell. So I've just been pounding it with a hammer. Basically, I've just been pounding it like this, and hoping that kind of hitting on the slope of this rounded part will try to push it that way. Which I guess doesn't make a whole lot of sense because this can't really go that way. But hopefully it's loosening it up. And then, as you can see, it looks like it started to come off a little bit. A clean line there. I was hitting there and pulling the engine the other way at the same time, and that seems to be working. So let's keep doing that. Come out. It did, yes. Sweet. Yes. Woohoo. Okay. I really do need to disconnect all my wiring now. Actually, I'm gonna try to spin the engine around the other way because I need to get the flywheel off, so I'll probably pull it off that way. If I do this right, I may not have to disconnect all the wiring. Will I do it right? That's a good question. I really just need it rotated, approximately 90 degrees here. There we go. All right. That might work if I can get all the screws loose on this plastic. We are not sitting on any hydraulic lines, I don't think. Yep, not quite on these. So it's good. I think we can work with this. We should be able to get the flywheel off from here. If I have to, I'll disconnect it the rest of the way. I think I've got my jacket messy enough for right now. Before I came out here today, I was asking my wife if this was a nice jacket or a work jacket. And she said it's kind of both. Although if you get it dirty, then maybe it's a work jacket. I think I paid like $2 for this at a garage sale, and it's a little too big. Hence the folded up cuffs. But all right, we're back from our break. Let's see if we can get this fixed. Well, let's see if we can get this plastic off. Okay, that feels like everything looks to be sweet. Need to get this shaft off here so that we can pull the flywheel off. There we go, just pull it off. Those are probably 10 mils. Yep. I'm thinking I might mark this somehow. So I'm gonna mark it with which bolt hole it goes to, just in case there's any balance concern there. I think it's just rusted on there. I really do. Maybe sledgehammer time. Oh, that's working. There we go. Oh, nice and clean in there. Venturing oil down there sure didn't do anything. This is what we need, this bolt right there. Sweet. Easy. There should be nothing left holding that flywheel on now. Of course, they never really come off like that. Yeah, I think I've got a threaded puller, or my dad has one that'll fit in there and then pop this thing straight off of there. See if I can find it. That's it. Okay. see if this works. Ah, flywheel just popped off just like that. Having the right tools makes things a lot faster sometimes. Okay. I'm probably gonna have to pull those mags off. Yeah, the ring gears kind of hang up on the magnetos. That stinks. I did not want to have to do that, because I didn't want to space them again. I'll go grab a feeler gauge, see if I can measure what's there. Probably should have done this before unbolting the flywheel, but I will tell you this, I think it's closer than a business card. Yeah, 6 has slight drag, so we want to go to, well, that's not 6,000, that's 0.025, is 6 in millimeters. Wow, that's really, really tight. But basically, it needs to be as close as possible. 8 mil should get these mags off. Ah, there we go, yes! Oh no, not only is the stator damaged, the flywheel magnets are toast. Okay, this means we need a new flywheel, or we need to reinstall magnets in here. Ah. Well, that's not a surprise. That is a disappointment. I was hoping it was just like a shorted wire or just the stator that was bad, not the flywheel magnets as well. Oh well. Yeah, you can see all this crud in here. Ugh. Disappointing. We've got like 1 good magnet and 2 damaged magnets and a bunch of broken up pieces. So I can either try to glue new magnets in here, which I have a brother who successfully done that on a vertical crankshaft engine. This is a Kohler Command horizontal shaft. I'll have to look at the prices of flywheels with good magnets in them, look at the price of magnets, and then make a call on that. I may as well go ahead and take out the stator and see if the new one fits. Make sure we don't need to order a different one of those as well. It looks like it's just 2 bolts here, that one and that one. And thankfully, I don't think it, hopefully it did not crack the block there. You can see this buckled slightly. You don't want those to break the block, that's not real good. All right, there we go, sweet. Okay, so I'll have to take the connectors out of there, redo that plug. There's actually 2 other bosses here you could drill and tap if you had to, it looks like. Oh, what do you know? This one has 4 holes. It should be perfect. Okay. Alright, so we are back at it on the backhoe. We had some cold weather come through, so I just covered up the engine with the tarp. Got a little snow and ice. Anyway, so here's that flywheel again. It's pretty obvious. These magnets are garbage. We basically have 1 magnet that's good still attached. Not this one. This one has a chip out of it here. I think this magnet is like the only good magnet. So I've been looking on eBay, seeing what I can find. You can get new magnets. They're like around $45 for a pair. I need about 6 magnets, well 5 or 6. You use flywheels, at least the correct one is like, there's a used one for like $160, which sounds like a lot, plus shipping. I found some other flywheels I thought might be right, but turned out that they were not. There was like a used set of magnets for, you know, $70 to $80, somewhere in there. It got sold, so I decided to start doing some poking around, see what I had. So, I don't know if you remember, but I had this mower here. This one's been in the shop for a long time, again. I started working on it and got tired of working on it and didn't really like where it's headed. But anyway, the engine was bad, so I decided to pop off the flywheel, took off all the fan and stuff, and here we are. It has a lot of similarities to my other flywheel, but it's not the same. The magnets, however, look like they are the same. So the question becomes, can I safely remove these magnets and put them in here? I'm not really sure. Again, here, let's look at the differences here real quick between the flywheels. So the casting is different, and something that's really critical to me, we don't have all the bolt holes here to mount our brackets. Okay, yeah, you could probably drill and tap those. We don't have these ones here for the fan. I don't know, maybe you can make something work, but this is kind of important here. So I'm kind of facing the same way here, but the key slot is different. This key slot is here, This key slot is there. It needs to be down here. So I'm thinking that the best bet is to try to remove those magnets and reinstall them in the other flywheel and then try to move on my way. If that doesn't work, well, then we'll go from there. But I've got this flywheel here. The only thing I can really waste is my time, which I don't really want to, but also might be faster than waiting for something to ship here. So that's where we're at. I think I'm gonna see if I can clean up that flywheel and get those magnets out. We'll try to get it physically clean. Then we'll use solvents and heat to see if we can get it out. Solvents and heat are great to mix. You might be able to get some explosions. I think those are really the only two good options we have. I just don't want to break those magnets. That seems like such a waste if I do. All right, that looks pretty clean now. Now it's just a matter of how do we get them out. I'm looking at it and I'm noticing the gaps are not all exactly the same. The important thing is that the magnets need to be alternating. They have like north, south, north ones and south, north, south ones. So they need to be alternating all the way around so that it charges correctly. Another thing that I maybe failed to mention was that the significance of the keyway pointing a certain way is that that's what times the engine. The relationship between the crankshaft and piston and cylinder, well, piston, and this thing here generating the spark. I've got a bunch of items to try to scrape with and see if I can get under. It occurred to me I could try to remove these broken magnets out of here as guinea pigs for the good magnets. So I got this one out, and what I was realizing is that this is taking long enough that really, if it takes too long, I should just buy another flywheel. It's not worth my time. But I still hadn't broken these magnets yet, so why not just hit them harder to try to get them out? Well, I hit it harder and it popped out. And this one came out in one piece, and really the glue is like only right around the edges. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, let's try the last one here, and let's see if we can't just hit it harder and get that one popped out. There it comes. That was great. There we go. I got a bigger hammer out and I successfully broke this magnet. It does not want to come off in one piece. I went ahead and bought a set of used magnets, which we have here. I spent way too much for these. I say that, it just seemed like a lot. I think I spent like $80 for these magnets. You can see how they're kind of all set in two stacks. It's like one stack of each polarity or something like that, I can't remember. I don't want to break these, so put them back in the bubble wrap. I then cleaned out this flywheel the other day and it promptly rusted. Just a little flash rust in here. Nothing serious, but I need to get that rust cleaned back out of there. I think I got all the glue and stuff out. Most of the little magnet particles, that was a problem. It's like, how do you clean magnet particles off of like a cast iron or steel flywheel, whatever this thing is? It's not super easy. Anyway, so I'm just gonna try to brush this flash rust off of here with my wire brushes. And then we're gonna use some JB Weld and we're gonna glue those in. I watched a video on YouTube, I think it was Terrell. I don't really watch a lot of his stuff because those teeth drive me crazy. He used binder clips to hold the magnets in. I got a box of binder clips. He also used wooden clothespins as kind of spacer shims to hold the magnets apart. I got wooden clothespins, or I have some. The only other thing I need to do really is find a way to mark these magnets so I have the polarities correctly alternating. That's kind of what we're going to be doing here. I'm not an expert at this, and I don't know how much you want to follow what I'm doing until you find out if it works. Let's do it. All right, I think we've got everything here. Paper towel, tray for the JB Weld. Yep, these are used for sure. You can see little bits, remnants of glue on there. I can't really put them together in a continuous stack because they want to be offset. Should be like a north, south, north. I might want to double check that. I really don't want to get these backwards. All right, after searching for one of those part picking up magnets on the retractable wand, I wanted one of those to double check and confirm the polarities on these magnets. I couldn't find one, and I finally remembered that my flashlight has a magnet on the end. So I used this and was able to confirm which ones are which. Yep, these three all suck in, as Terrell says. These ones all repulse, like they don't want to go. So from front to back, the polarities have changed, which is why all the like ones will stick together nicely. I know what I need to know there. Now I just need to go ahead, mark those somehow. I don't think I've used this since the timing belt tensioner job on the Honda Odyssey. And it was pretty old and crusty then too, I think. It came like with the house when we bought the house here. Oh, okay. I got some on my finger. We'll use that. And that should be sufficient. Let that dry a little bit, and then we should be ready to try to assemble into the flywheel. A little glue there. Get my razor, see if I can scrape that off. Okay, I think these are all clean enough to install. Time for the dry fit. Seem to have this end is too thin, the other end is too thick. What if we run them down like that? It's probably not that bad, honestly. And then we'll use these binder clips to hold them in place. All right, I think we're about ready to mix up some glue. Gracious. Wow. That's messy in a hurry. I think I used way too much. All right. Much less JB Weld this time. It's interesting, because it's wet, it's like they slide down. Alright. I have the other flywheel here I was kind of going off of. There's just one magnet stuck in there. I'm kind of going off that height. And Terrell said about 1/8 inch, but there's no real good way to measure an 1/8 in here. At least I don't think there is a good way. I think that's going to be fine. I think I need to let it go. I think I'm chasing perfection where it can't be found. All right, well, I'm just probably going to have to pretty much let it go, and I'll keep an eye on it maybe. But I set the flywheel here out of the way in the back of the shop. I admit, I'm a little concerned about drift. Concerned that the magnets are going to float around. Not sure what I can do about it. I'll just check on it every so often and see if it still looks okay. But 4 to 6 hour cure time is quite a while, so I should probably check it again in about 30 minutes and make sure it's okay. All right, so it's been a minute since I've been working on the backhoe. I did get the magnets glued into the flywheel, gosh, a little over a week ago. Let's go check those out in the shop, see how they are. Maybe we can get this engine reassembled. Let's get these off. All right, so this looks pretty good to me. I may need to sand down some of this JB Weld a little bit. Have to be real careful, don't want to damage anything. I think my concern would be if the amount of JB Weld throws the flywheel off balance any, but it's a relatively small amount, especially considering the weight of this, cast iron flywheel. Overall, the magnets look pretty good. That gap there, these ones are slightly out of step. This one's a little high. Other than that, the rest of these look pretty good. It's just this one messy magnet is a little farther this way than the rest of them. You know what I may do? I may grab the stator or whatever it's supposed to go in here and see if it fits okay. And it looks like it does. So it definitely fits in there. Now, obviously, I don't know if this here is centered on the flywheel. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to put it together and spin it some and see how it looks. I'm not going to waste time trying to sand that JB weld at this point because I don't really want to mess anything up. I don't want to loosen the magnets by accident. Going by hand, that would probably take a while and be hard to get into the little tiny spots that I could with a Dremel. But with a Dremel, you know, I don't know if the vibrations would damage anything. So I think I'm going to leave well enough alone, assemble it, and see if I can spin it around with zero contacting anywhere. I think it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, well, that would be disappointing, especially if we damage the block. That would be bad. The way the block could get trashed is if the magneto, if it gets caught in the flywheel, if the mounting points for the magneto on the block get damaged. Instead of the magneto just getting damaged, then it rips the mounting points off of the block. All right, I think it's time to begin the reassembly process. Yes! Hopefully the engine has fared fine being covered with this tarp. Oh, we got stuff growing in the tarp. How cool is that? Oh. Man, it's been so long, I don't really remember how this wiring was routed. Oh, why did I let this sit for so long? Yeah, I'm gonna get my plastic brush and clean this up a little bit. And for those of you that think I should have an air compressor to blow this stuff off, you're probably right, but I don't. Alright, well, something has become apparent as I've been trying to install this stator here, and that would be that these two bolts that I used that came off of it are actually slightly bent, which isn't a surprise, but they were bent just slightly enough I didn't really realize they were bent until I was trying to install it, and it just felt weird. Anyway, so I'm going to need to find some replacements for these, buy some replacements, or do something. These ones aren't going to work real good, so I'll have to get that taken care of. Alright, well, we are ready to get back at it on the backhoe today. It's a Saturday morning. I really want to get it running today. The last issue we had was the bolts that held the stator in, I think it's called stator, magneto, whatever. But we picked up some new ones from a hardware store, so I think we should be ready to move forward. I have this old snap ring case that I've been using to hold all the bolts from this project. Let's not dump them out on camera. Let's go ahead and try to get those on. Try to move forward. Let's get this thing done. That looks so nice in there. Let's see if we can get centered up with the new bolts, and I hope it works. All right, they seem to fit, so that's a good sign. Crud in there that's keeping me from tightening it down. Get that underneath your bolt and it doesn't want to go down. There's no great way to clean off magnetic debris. You can try spraying stuff. I'm trying to flush it off, but goodness. I mean, it's attached in a sense. All right, we're back to where we were. So now it's kind of time for putting the flywheel back on. I lost my key. I don't know how or why. Maybe it was stuck in the shaft and wasn't coming out and then came out when I wasn't expecting. I don't know. But I have another key. I found one from the parts engine, from a parts engine. Yeah, we need to get the flywheel on here and see if there's any contact anywhere. This is kind of the moment of truth, at least one of the first moments of truth where we kind of see if things fit. All right, let's do this. Here's my key, a little half moon, or technically a third of a moon maybe. So I'm just pushing it in there by hand. Sometimes people use like a dab of grease maybe to hold them in. Not 100% sure. All right, so I'm gonna try to line up the flywheel, get this puppy on here. If that key falls out, that'll be annoying because there's a hole, so it'll probably fall straight through into the grass. All right. Why is it not going on the rest of the way? I think my keyway wasn't clean enough. Now this is kind of a tapered shaft on here, so I think to some extent we might actually have to let the bolt pull it on, so to speak. Just really want to be sure that we're on that key nice and good. Oh, that felt good. Yeah, it went on that time. Okay, now we need to do our dry spin check, I guess. Ow! Gracious! Oh! Spun my finger around and got pinched where the starter comes in. Ouch. Okay. I don't hear anything that sounds too concerning. It doesn't feel like anything's rubbing too much. If there was just a tiny bit of JB Weld rubbing, I don't think that would be a big issue anyway. It'd probably just wear off really quick. It's kind of hard to tell because there's different noises you hear. And it's hard to tell what's what, but this doesn't really sound different to me from spinning over a regular engine. It feels pretty free. Yeah, I feel like we're good to go. Oh, praise the Lord. Hope this works. So we'll have to tighten that puppy down. Then we'll set our magnetos. Is that what these are? Yep. I may pull the starter off and just try to flush any magnetic debris out of there. And then we can begin the rest of the reassembly process. We do need to redo the electrical wire. Here's the new one. It comes in from the stator, so we need to get these in that plug. I still got this old one sitting over here. That is a really good first step there. I think this is gonna work. Let's get this thing tightened up. Okay, I think that's good. Hopefully I can take it off again if I ever have to. But all right, well, I was trying to put that flywheel bolt back on there, and I wasn't sure how tight to put it. So you saw me put it on there. I second guessed it, backed it off, put it on there again. Looked at a video and it was like, you know, put it on as tight as you can. Like, well, how tight is that? Like, can you break it? Anyway, the answer is yes, you can break them. I broke mine off, so we have now experienced another setback on this project. This is gonna be a pain. So now we have to drill that out and get a new one of these. Why did I do that? Well, it's because I don't have a great way to torque something that's moving, and it kept looking like it was tightening, which I knew, it's like, I don't know. My impact wrench is too strong, so I can't just go as tight as my impact wrench can go. And I still had it on the level 2 setting and it sheared it off. So these DeWalt's have plenty of power. Don't do what I did, be more careful. I knew that could happen, but I just was kind of insecure about making sure it was tight enough on there. Like in my head, it's like, well, I don't really see that it's gonna come off because the key's gonna hold it. That just needs to keep it from sliding off. But I also really don't want it to start wiggling around on there, get loose and start wiggling around, so let's put it a little tighter. But, you know, a little tighter, then it breaks off. So I gotta get that bolt out of there. It's gonna be a really hard metal, and we need to drill it really straight. This may be a job for a machine shop, honestly. This is how you make a fairly simple job turn into a really big job. This is also how you learn lessons, by making mistakes. That was frustrating. Really frustrating. I was so close to having this thing back and running. It's just frustrating. You feel like you're starting to move forward on something and then you make a mistake like this. It's all a part of the story, but it is kind of annoying. Don't do what I did. You know, it's hard to remember in the moment, but the character qualities I learn working on this backhoe are more important than the backhoe itself. Those are things that will stay with me for my life, the whole rest of my life. This backhoe probably won't. I'm not that old, and this backhoe is not that new. So it's good to remember those things. I did get a little frustrated. I may have even stomped. That's because I'm so focused on the project, and I really want a result. But the more important things are the things that we learn when we go through these projects. So we'll just have to regroup. Setbacks happen. Can't avoid them sometimes, but you can learn from them and just keep moving forward. All right, well, I have decided I am going to try to drill and extract. I just got back from Harbor Freight with some fresh premium Harbor Freightium, some fresh premium Harbor Freightium. So I just got back from Harbor Freight with some fresh premium Harbor Freightium, and we'll see if it helps us. And while I was there, I did check out the drill presses. It would be a pretty big drill press to be able to have the reach to get a drill bit all the way out there in the crankshaft, like a $500 drill press there at Harbor Freight. So obviously I could get a used one, but it's a lot of money. So worst case scenario, I don't do anything. Next worst case scenario is I hurt myself or ruin the crankshaft. If I ruin the crankshaft, then I need to rebuild the engine, which honestly probably wouldn't be terrible. This thing's got some hours on it. I don't know when it was last rebuilt. Or I would just swap an engine at that point. And then I've lost the time and money to get to this point, except for I've learned valuable lessons. So let's not do the worst thing, which is nothing. Let's try to avoid ruining the crankshaft. And in order to do that, that's why I got some Harbor Fradium. This is a transfer punch set. So I have a center punch, but it's the long spring-loaded type. One of these. If I use one of these, I've got to eyeball and get it on the center in there, and that is way down in there, quite a ways. So maybe we could get it centered, but I'm realizing in this case, since it's buried, if I have a punch that had an OD that matched the ID or very close to the ID of that bolt hole in there, then it would kind of automatically be in the center. So that's where the transfer punches come in. Let's open them up and see if they work. I think we should be able to find one that's about the same diameter as this bolt was. That would fit right down in that hole, and then out of necessity be center punching in the middle. So it kind of be self-centering, so to speak. So let's open this up and see if this works. So we have a bajillion punches that we probably aren't ever going to use, but this whole set only costs like $12 to $14. I think it's 14 something after tax. Small price to pay if it helps get this bolt out. So I'm going to try to find one of these that matches this about exactly. Actually, I'm just going to try sliding them into the hole there in the crankshaft. That one does not quite fit. That one just barely fits in there. So if I get that one in there, that should, by nature of its size, get me a nice centered punch. Looks like this one was a 27 64ths. Let's see if this works. Get a nice large divot in there. Oh wow. Yeah, I might actually be rounding off my punch. At this point I can feel for that divot with this one. This one is a better job of actually getting it in the metal there. It's possible that these center punches aren't really made for this type of work, but it definitely helped me establish a good center spot. I don't know if you can tell, but the tip of that looks slightly flattened off now. Not a big deal. Let's get this disconnected so we can remove the old stator all the way. Might need to move the engine around, and this is kind of in the way a little bit. Not exactly sure how these work. There's like a little release tab. There we go. All right, I think we're all set up for making a go at this. I've got the engine kind of positioned in a better spot for me here. Kind of facing up more, still facing slightly towards me, which I think is actually probably gonna be ideal. Got my extractor set out and my left-handed drill bits. So in theory, this bolt was like a 13 millimeter or so. In theory, that should be my number 5 extractor, which is for like 10 to 16, but I'm starting out with my 8 to 10, which is my number 4 extractor right here. I kind of like to start out too small or smaller because it leaves more room for margin of error. Likewise, for this extractor, I'm supposed to use, I believe, a 1/4 inch drill bit, and I am starting with a 3/16. Got the drill set up ready to go. Put the second handle on there because I want to be able to hold this straight. And well, there's not a whole lot more we can do. We'll probably just try to take our time, be careful. We may need to upsize to that largest extractor if we're dead center. If we're not dead center, then it's kind of nice to have a smaller extractor. Let's go for it. Reverse my drill. Okay, drill feels like it's in that center punch pretty good. It's actually harder to tell if I'm straight up and down with, or straight in line where I have this second handle on. It is immediately trying to wander on me. Oh, praise the Lord, it's coming out. Can't believe that, it's actually coming out. There's our bolt. Wow. I'm pretty excited about that. I was not expecting that to happen. Praise the Lord. Yes, I'm so excited that worked. It wasn't in there tight at all. I did also learn when I was looking at it, you're not really supposed to have lubricant on there when you're putting the flywheel on, because on a tapered fit it can maybe make it go on too far. So I may try to remove this and put it back on again, clean it out and put it back on. I think the danger is that you can split or crack the flywheel. I don't think that's happened. This is exactly why you use left-handed drill bits to try to drill a hole for an extractor, because sometimes you don't need the extractor and the drill bit itself pulls it out. That's exactly what happened here. If I'd been using a right-handed drill bit, it probably wouldn't have happened. I don't know how it possibly could have. And we would have had to have gone through the whole painful process of trying an extractor. It probably would have worked pretty well since obviously it wasn't in super tight, but it can save you some headache doing this. And I really don't think that I got that perfectly centered, even with all my efforts. Next thing is to get another bolt. And this time around, I think we're probably gonna try to use the torque wrench if we can hold the flywheel stationary enough. If we can't, we'll use the impact again, but we're not gonna use it quite so aggressively. I guess it's off to town now to get a new bolt. Let's see what we can find here at the helpful place. So it turns out this is actually a M10 by 1.5. I didn't realize. I thought it was a 13 because the head was a 13 right here, but no, it's the shaft size that matters, which means I was actually planning to use the right extractor, I think. So the issue I'm running into is that this is a 45mm bolt, and they only have 40s and 50s. So this is a 50 here, and I am trying to get some washers to space it up, which I don't like doing. This one is thick enough, but it's the wrong diameter. It's a little too big. This one is the right diameter, but two of these would be too thick. I think we're gonna go home and we may try to trim this down, but we're gonna thread it into the crankshaft and see how much variation we have there, how much play we have. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I could try stopping somewhere else, but I don't know if anybody's gonna have a lot more metric bolts than Ace Hardware, at least locally, so. We may experience a rain delay here shortly, and hopefully it's just a rain delay and not a tornado delay. But let's see if we can get a little more done here before we have to stop. So here we are, we've got the bolt. It is 5mm longer than the original bolt. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue or not. I think I need to tilt the engine back over and try to blast out some of the metal shavings with some brake cleaner, and then we'll go on from there. See if we can do this. Oh, yeah. See how much threading there is in there. If there's enough threading, we don't need to use the extra washers. Oh, look at that. Oh, great. That is fantastic. I was able to just screw that in by hand past the thickness of this washer, which was the original washer. So that tells me I probably don't need to use any of my spacer washers, which is great. Okay, I got a torque wrench here. I have no idea how feasible this is. Yeah, it's definitely trying to spin. Not a surprise. It's like 40 to 45 foot-pounds there. I may bump it up to 50. My torque meter is not exact, so either this is 45 or this is 50. Okay, there we go. Should be plenty. Now we can take these off if we didn't bend those. I don't think we did. Now we can move on with this project. All right, well, it's starting to sprinkle a little more, so I'm probably gonna go ahead and get things cleaned up out here. I was hoping to get my coils set, but I want to get all my tools and stuff inside before it starts raining hard. Well, looks like the storm split in half, so we may not get any rain. So let's see if we can go ahead and get these magnetos on. I think we need to kind of tighten them down further back. That's a really big gap there. Just need to get on the other side here. So much magnetic grit on there. It's a pain. There's still a lot of it stuck to the back of this coil. That's just kind of a pain. All that magnetic dust everywhere. It keeps coming up over and over. So annoying. Let's see, here's the wire back in here. It needs to be hooked up to. Looks like it's the same coil. It's just either placed this way or this way. All right, time to get the rest of this back together. I left some marks on the flywheel there. I don't know if you can see those. I think they line up with a couple of scratches on here. There we go. Oh, now I gotta remember which bolts are which. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're these ones with the little spacer for the plastic. Get this thing on here. I don't think it really matters the orientation of some of this stuff. The fan probably really doesn't matter at all. This one could matter, but I really don't think it does. It has a keyway here, which goes into the drive shaft, which drives the pump. But I don't think it matters the pump's orientation to the engine's orientation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on here, even though I can't tell exactly how I was trying to line this up previously. All right, so I just looked at a couple other engines I have, and this wire should come out down here where the spark plug wire comes out. So let's pop this back off a little bit. Should be fine. All right, well, I think it's time to go ahead and flip the engine around. Then maybe we can get the last screws in that hold the shroud on. Oh, and of course we need to hook up the electrical voltage regulator or whatever it is. That's important. It's kind of the whole reason we did this. There we go. All right. So, engine is back in the right orientation. Got this other bolt on here. I checked out one of my other engines, and the one with the little wire should be over here by the voltage regulator, and it's basically going to be a ground for the voltage regulator. So at this point, we just need to get the drive shaft hooked up, which is important, and get this hooked up and voltage regulator installed, then bolt the engine down, then get the grill and the hood back on, hook up the fuel lines. So we are getting very close, but unfortunately I think it might be done for today. I think it's time to head inside and go spend some time with the family, have some supper. But we are really close here. Hopefully one more evening or morning or whatever, and we can wrap this thing up. All right, so I have some time to get back on it again. It's a Monday after work. I have about an hour until supper time. So let's see if we can go ahead and get the drive shaft connected, engine bolted down, and then, we'll see about hooking up the fuel lines and things like that. But let's start with getting the drive shaft connected, then bolting down the engine. This isn't going to be easy to video, but basically I need to wiggle the engine around until I can get this lined up. That will have to slide in there. So you'll get the idea. I'll let you see me wiggle it. So I'd kind of forgotten about it. You probably would remember since it hasn't been months for you, but I left one bolt in the mounting tab because it was so hard to get out. That bolt is still in there, and I used it kind of as my guide till I could get it to drop down. I don't know if you can see it under there, but it has dropped down. So let me see, I'll wiggle it for you. Yeah, that bolt right there. I know the camera's not focusing on it, but let's go ahead and try to line up the other 4 feet. We've got these bolts here. I use this one to actually help a little bit. I don't remember which one came from where. Let's get it done. All right, got the engine mounting bolts installed with the help of the 1/2-inch impact driver. I was missing one washer, but I have a spare washer because I bought washers in case I needed to shim out or space out the new crankshaft flywheel bolt. So that worked out well. Now I just need to tighten the set screws on the drive shaft, and we should be in really good shape. I have no idea if you can see. I rotate this around. One set screw there, one set screw there. All that's really left on this project now is putting the voltage regulator back on, the new voltage regulator on rather, hooking up any other wiring and fuel line or whatever that's necessary. But that fuel line has to be connected after I put the grill and gas tank on. So grill, gas tank, voltage regulator, and fuel line. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of. So here's the voltage regulator. It's pretty straightforward, and it goes right in there. And I lost the screws from the original one because I pulled the original one off a while ago due to it being shorted out. I've got these little screws I'm going to try first. If those don't work, I've got these much bigger, much longer screws I can try out. See how this goes. Yeah, this is the grounding strap. I'm going to put these wires into the plug. Just make sure they match this middle wire in which way they're facing. Or how they clip in here. Yeah. And this should just plug right in there. That wire is a little too long. I may zip tie that up at some point. Make a loop and zip tie it or something. But now, let's see if these screws are long enough. Okay, these fit right through the existing hole, so we're not going to use them. We're going to have to use these longer ones. 8mm looks like it'll fit pretty well, so we'll go with that. The groundings tab in there. Check this thing in. All right, have to remember these plastic situations you can't always tighten the same way. I may have over tightened that one because it felt like it was staying about the same, but I think everything feels solid in there. So the backhoe should run at this point if it could only get gasoline. So let's fix that part next. This part is fun, or it was a little bit before. And, see if I can work this around the exhaust. There we go. That wasn't too bad. I guess I learned a lesson somehow. And I'm not sure why one of the bolts has a washer and none of the others do. And I'm not 100% sure which one had the washer. It looks like it was the top one on this side. I'm sorry, that left one. And one of the bolts is flanged, and that one is longer. I guess they're not all the same. I guess someone probably lost a bolt, maybe lost washers. Anyway, let's try to put it back the same way. That one looks like it went there. And the other side, you can kind of see a spot where the flanged one was. Get my impact and tighten these puppies down if I can. All right, that should be good enough. Now it's time for the gas tank. This one could be a little bit fun. I need to get this fuel line installed on the gas tank before I tilt it over because there's gas in the gas tank. I also need to bolt it in at the hinges. The bolts are kind of the hinges, it looks like. Kind of all at the same time, so this could get very gassy. I've had it sitting in the dirt for too long. Of course, I wasn't planning on this thing being off for so long. Gracious, that thing is heavy, for sure. Whew. See if I can get the fuel line on now. Got the fuel line on, so now I can try to set it where it belongs. See if I can get the bolts in. Right in there. All right, that one's in loosely. These are the nylon nuts. So you can kind of screw them in easily till you get to the nylon part. Essentially a lock nut. All right, those are on loosely. I'm gonna try to tighten this thing up again. Now let's tighten them down. There we go. These don't have to be super tight. Still want the hinge to work. That was super tight apparently. There we go. Let's try the other side now. Not really sure how tight these are supposed to be. Maybe it's just totally a matter of user preference. As long as the nylon is engaged. And this hood's not really gonna go anywhere very easily. The hood still works, okay. It's a little tight, but honestly, tighter might be safer so the hood doesn't slam down on you. There is a safety catch, but if you put up all the way, I think it'll be fine the way it is. Might loosen up over time, we'll see. Let's add a little gas in here, and maybe we'll see if this thing runs. That would be so great after such a long break. And hopefully it doesn't start smoking wiring. Let's check the oil real quick first. Oil looks just about perfect. I say perfect, it's right in the middle of the zone and slightly dirty, which is not a surprise. The oil will be sufficient. All right, well, we are ready for our moment of truth, our maiden voyage. After the repairs, there's any number of things that could be wrong or could go wrong. The electrical could start smoking and overheating like it did before if there's a short somewhere. The magnets in the flywheel and the JB weld may rub on something. That could be an issue. It could break off the stator again like it did previously, or damage it. Also, my coils could be too close to my flywheel. I could snap those off or break them off. Those would all be issues, and you'll probably find out pretty quickly. It's probably not going to start immediately because the fuel's probably drained out a little bit. And I also don't know how fresh the battery is. I mean, it's been sitting for a while. So that may work in our favor if the fuel takes a while to process through, so we can listen and see if it sounds okay. Crank it over. Here we go. Maiden voyage. It's been a minute since I've sat in this seat. Oh yeah. That sounds just fine. Sounds like it always did. Let's put the choke on. Okay, need a little more choke than that. I took the choke off too quick. Something melting. Check. That's just my exhaust. Exhaust getting hot. Okay. I don't think anything got damaged, so that means hopefully our repair worked. Now, to actually verify that, we're gonna have to throw a voltmeter on the battery while it's running, which can be a little difficult because if the hood is up, it's harder for it to get fuel. Anyway, it's still not running smoothly yet though, but I think that may just be because it was sitting for a while. Yeah, wiring is not smoking, so that is good. Let's try it again. Acting slightly like my dad's grasshopper, which has a similar cooler, was acting when it had a bad spark plug. We might have a slight misfire there. At higher RPM, I think it's running, I think it's hitting on both, but at idle, I think it's not. Yep, exhaust is burning off whatever it is that exhaust burn off. Residual oil, maybe from tipping the engine over, some oil somehow got there, I don't know. So, it runs. Project was a success. Let's actually try to drive it and move it out of its spot that it's been in for so long. So I got carried away there. To actually determine if the project is a success, we need to see if it's charging the battery. Let's check that next. So this is gonna be a little bit difficult to check, but I think we can. Basically, I have to get the engine running, and then we want the volts to show up as maybe probably around 14. That would be good probably. So that was a success. We were getting well over 14 volts. I think we got up to like 14.8 or something like that. This project was a success in that now the Terramite is charging the battery. So we shouldn't have to be jump starting it. We shouldn't have to be using jumper packs and all that stuff. Shouldn't have to be charging up the battery. Mission accomplished in that regard. Now let's do the final check and just make sure it still moves around and the hydraulics function. Mission accomplished! All right, well that was a long time in coming, but the backhoe is officially back in action. It started running a little bit better there. I was also messing with the choke. It's a little lean. It needs a little more fuel in there, but full choke is too much fuel still, so it's not that far off. That is a noisy machine. It's been a minute. Well, that project had a few hiccups. Things didn't always go as planned and hoped, but we stuck to it. Eventually we got the backhoe running again. It was out of commission way longer than I wanted it to be, but it's back now and we got the issue resolved. So we are at a net positive now. There are more things to work on the backhoe if I find time. None of them are as pressing. You know, fuel lines, maybe seat replacement, fixing hydraulic leaks, changing the oil. That would probably be a good idea. Changing the oil and air filter and stuff. Getting an air filter that fits under the air filter cover, stuff like that. But that's it for now. We have the backhoe, it's working, that's what's important. And I want to thank you all so much for clicking on this video and joining me on this story about my little Terramite backhoe. And don't be afraid to get out there and break a wrench. Don't be afraid to get out there and make a story. But stay safe, don't forget to spend time with your family, and we will catch you all on the next one.